Hey guys, this is V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. So today, we're going to be getting into it a little bit. We're going to be talking about, abundance, the abundance mindset. That's right. The question is, how much of your life do you want to live on a scale that is considered average? We all talk about these people, the 2%ers. How do you think they get there? And no, they don't inherit it. Over 70% of the people that are wealthy, they earn it in the generation in which they created it. Okay? So in their generation. So we're going to get to that. But let's, if you like the content, hit the like button. All right? Leave a comment, question, no problem. Try to answer them. If it's a question, sometimes I don't even mind the negative stuff. I've been getting some negative stuff lately. And it makes me laugh. I got to have something to laugh at once in a while, one thing about when you get older, you don't give a shit. So you want to write something negative? No problem. Hey, but if you got something constructive, we want to hear that too. And then don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we want to continue to bring this content. It kind of motivates me, right? Because there is no ask. I'm not asking you for anything. Have I asked you for anything in over 2 years? Not a damn thing. And if you think we do this for free, you're kidding yourself. There's tens of thousands of dollars invested in all of this just to bring you content, just to help you with your life, just to get you on a different path. So let's get into it. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about the concept of abundance. All right. What really defines the population between that 2-3%, and let's even say the top 10%, and everybody else? Even if you use Pareto's law, it's the top 20%. So let's even go there. How do you get in that top 20%? Now, the atmosphere is a lot more rare. It's a more rare atmosphere up around that 2-3%. But hey, I'm happy to stick with this fact that if you can get into that top 20%, well, you have changed your life. You have, in most cases, changed your legacy to your, next generation and the generation after that. And so, what is it? What causes that? Why? And why do so many people live in the 80%? And that 80% is going to be a real problem. The middle class, as we call the 80%, right? And it's made up of the middle class, and it's made up of the working class, and it's made up of people who are considered to be poor. I don't know exactly. They just can't, all the way down to the homeless, right? That's the 80%. All right. There's the top 20%. There's the 80%. Now, I'll tell you this. Even the homeless in this country live better than the homeless anywhere else. Now, that ought to give me some hate, but it's the truth because there is still a government out there that cares. There's a lot of governments out there that just don't care. They just don't. Right now, I'm not here to talk about the homeless, and I'm not here to talk about the working poor. What I want to talk about here is, in this video, is the abundance. How do you develop that mindset? Now, I'm not an expert. I've just have lived my life. And then my life has not always been in the top 20%. I believe I was born somewhere in I wouldn't say upper middle class, but my father, even though he wasn't super wealthy. He died a wealthy person, but he was very frugal. So we lived lived in an environment of abundance, but in a very frugal manner. I know, contradictions, right? Well, the world's full of contradictions, my friend. You just got to get used to them. In other words, I could see that based upon the way he worked or didn't work, I could see that what he did to make a living was a mindset of abundance. Now, how he spent and how he lived his life was not. And so, but that's because, he came out of that Depression era, born in 1930, right? The Depression ran almost all the way to close to 1940. For a lot of people, it ran right into World War II. And so, even though he understood what it was like to be an entrepreneur, which took him a lot closer to that level of abundance, he couldn't get past the realities of the way life was when he grew up, as, there wasn't enough for most people. Now, in his life, there was. His father was in real estate. Like I've said, they owned apartment buildings. They worked really hard to do that at the time, but you still had 70% of the people working during the Depression. There was, I think unemployment was somewhere in the 30 range, which is staggering, but you still had 65, 70% of the people working. So rents went down, but he owned his buildings outright by then. My grandfather did. And so then they lived very well. And so, I think at some moments he was actually kind of embarrassed as to how he lived compared to how other people were living around them. Because we look at the financial crisis of '08 and we say, yeah, that was really horrible. But we didn't live most people, except for those who had gotten foreclosed on, most people did not really feel any way in which the economic conditions, could have taken them, right, into a horrible state. Whereas during the Depression, you had tremendous numbers of people that were basically in poverty and they were around you. So in any case, this is kind of mindset that I kind of grew up with, this idea that there's this thing called abundance. There's this thing called, entrepreneurship, right? And again, there is a conflict there because he lived frugally, right? So then, I kind of tried to rebel against that on some level. You tend to rebel against certain things as you grow up, right? You guys do the same thing, right? Now, but what I learned was that the road to abundance, in many cases, for the average person, I'm talking about the average person. I consider myself an average person, right? What do I got? I'm an average person. I'm not a superstar. I'm not an athlete. I don't reside in a tower in the corporate suite. None of that kind of stuff. So then entrepreneurship was my way to get to that above average life, to get into that 20%, to get into that 10%. Now, I'm not saying that I'm in the 1 or 2%, not there yet. There's still time while you're breathing. And then, but you can live your life in that 20%. But for the average person, it's very difficult. Like on one of my videos, I talk about, if you want to just, not have that much aggravation in life and you don't want to have a lot of stress, go work at Home Depot or go work at Lowe's. Well, that, as I've said in other videos, that really struck a chord in some people. Got some hate mail there. Absolutely. But what I'm trying to say is that even that person working at Home Depot or working at Menards or working at, a Lowe's, all right, or Walmart or anywhere else, you can raise yourself up, but you got to change your mindset first, my friend. You got to change the way in which your brain thinks. You have to. If you don't, there is nothing in the future for you except average. I had to do that myself. I had to get over the frugality of the way in which my father lived. Because let me tell you, most of this stuff comes from your parents. Yes, I would say probably, 60 to 70% of how you think, how you believe, what you believe comes from your parents, right or wrong. It comes from them. They have the greatest impact on you. Now, as you get older and you get past, you get in your 40s and 50s, you'd be surprised how that you can kind of shed that. But for most people, they don't. It's like I say, I teach these retirement classes and I teach them in locations like Loyola and in Chicago and Oakton College in Chicago. And we're doing DePaul this year. And when I sit down with these people, you might have one person out of 20 or 30 or 40 that's living an above average life. Everybody else is living within the shackles of the concepts they learned when they were a child. I know it does. And the crazy part, it has nothing to do with education. These values that are driven into you when you're young, they withstand, in many cases, education. Now, I don't know what's going on in the campuses right now. There's a little bit kind of crazy stuff going on there. But I'm talking about when the values around money, those things are driven into you when you're young. Right? And so for people who, live in a state of abundance, right? Now, they've either self-actuated there, or they were raised there. Now, for most of us, we're going to have to self-actuate ourselves into a state of mind of abundance. There's just no way around it. And if you don't do that, you will stay where you're at. You'll not take the risk. Because you see what What a mindset of abundance means is that you're not afraid. It reduces fear. And I'm not talking about just somebody who knows how to spend money. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about the state of abundance that allows you to make money, to create businesses, to manage businesses, to scale your business. All these things that create financial abundance. Then, see, with financial abundance, it's much easier to have all the other kinds of abundance in your life. Now, I don't think financial abundance has anything to do with spiritual abundance. That's a totally different, separate part of your life in that sense. Yes, should it affect all of your life? It should. But when you're talking about the relationship you have with your family, the relationship you have with your kids, your spousal relationship, you just, if you have a lack of money, or if you live in a state of abundance, it will be a different relationship. And you might say, well, yeah, but you got to have the money first. That's why even before you go out and you get married, even before you go out and you have your own family, you should be working on yourself, working on your ability to generate money, to generate that state of abundance, to actuate that. First, it's a mindset, and then you have to have the activity around a mindset that will get you to where you want to go. It seems like it's just a bunch of words, but you look at these people. You look at the people that do very, very well in life, and you will see that they live at a different level. They live from a perspective of abundance, from a perspective of can do, because what that state of abundance will give you, it won't solve all your problems. Like I said, in my growing up, my father did very well. He lived as an entrepreneur, but at the same time, he just didn't like spending money because he came from a depressionary time in life, from the time when the whole world was in a depression. And so you can still prosper. You can still affect. Did he have a positive effect on my life or a negative? Extraordinarily positive, because I learned how to be an entrepreneur. I learned that I did not have to automatically become part of one of the cogs in the wheel. I could create my own wheel. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. The biggest asset you have right now is your job. And you might say, well, yeah, but you just said I don't like, if you work at Lowe's, what the heck? But that job gives you a W-2. That W-2 gives you the ability to borrow money. The ability to borrow money gives you the ability to buy something, to start a business, to buy a business, to buy real estate. All comes from somewhere. The problem is for most people, after they go to school, they go to high school, they go out, whether they go out to get a job immediately or they go to college and they get a job, it all stops there. All learning stops there. All mental growth, mindset growth stops. And that's where they get stuck. Wherever it was, there's a point where they're stuck, where it's over. They just keep repeating tomorrow what they did the day before. I don't want that for you. I want you to be able to say, hey, it's a good day. I want to go golfing. It's a good day. I want to go boating. It's a good day. I want to hang with the kids. Can you do that now? All right. And now I'll get people to say, well, I get 2 days off. Well, that's good. But it may not be the 2 days you need in order to spend the time with your family that you'd want to spend. But I'm trying to say, if you're happy living average, if you're happy living middle class, then absolutely fine. Go for it. Do, live the life, all good. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want to live an exceptional life, if you want to live a life that is filled with abundance, then you have to start to take your dreams. You have to take those dreams. You have to refine those dreams down into goals. You have to then, because not all dreams you can deal with, right? Who knows what your dreams are? All right. But from the dreams that are important to you, the ones that stand out regarding life, you can then refine them down to a goal. And then around those goals, you got to create activity. And that activity has to come with a timetable. You can't, I knew a guy one time that every time you talk to him, he said, yes. If someone say to him, so what do you want to do? He said, well, in 5 years, I'll have this done. It was always 5 years out. He didn't give the 5 years a date. Give the 5 years a date. Give the 1 year a date, because that's what holds you accountable. That's what gives you the ability then to create the activity in order to achieve the goal. If you just have your 5-year plan, then it's always 5 years out. Well, then you don't need to apply any activity because you always got 5 more years. I know it sounds simpleton, right? But, the mind has a tremendous capacity to rationalize. Hell, if it didn't, we'd all be jumping off the damn cliff, literally, right? All right, because we'd all be having a state of panic every single day, a state of this or that. So the mind knows how to rationalize things. But in the same token, there are things you don't want to rationalize, all right? And that's your financial progress. That's your progress of life, all right? You want to be able to put some dates, some times around that, and then the activities necessary to achieve those goals. This isn't difficult. Well, I should say, that's a statement that's probably not the best formed statement. I should say this is simple, but it can be difficult. This is simple, but it isn't necessarily easy. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it. It's easy to sit on the sofa and watch football. Someone might say that's also simple. I get it. But then there's things that can be broken down to a level that are simple to accomplish, but they're not easy to accomplish. And that's a different state. So you have to be highly motivated in order to do that. Now, how do you stay motivated? Well, by achieving the goals necessary along the road to get to the ultimate goal of what your financial goals are, what your lifestyle goals are, how you want to live your life, right? That's what this is about. Now, yes, I know that you might say this sounds like a word salad, but it's not. Let's go with step 1. Understand your dreams. Think about them. Spend time around your dreams, all right? And then refine some of those dreams, the important ones, down to goals. Because when you have a goal, it's something you have to achieve. No one has to achieve their dream. No, the whole concept of a dream is something you lay back and think about and you imagine. But you want the ones that are important to you, then let's start to move forward on those. Let's create those goals. And let's figure out, how do we actuate on those goals? How do we create activities necessary in order to accomplish those goals? And in what time frame are we going to accomplish those goals? This is on you. You want to start to think like a mindset of abundance. You have to start to change the way, some of the things. Now, maybe you fly once a year or go someplace once a year. Now, I'm not saying if you're going to go to Europe, whatever, but go first class. Try flying first class one day. If you tried flying first class one time, I'm telling you, it'd be very difficult to go back and fly coach economy. Very, very difficult. It's almost impossible. Go out and buy a nice car. All right. Now, it doesn't have to be a brand new car, but buy a nice car. I have an associate here. He went out and bought a Mercedes. I think it was an E350. It's a beautiful sedan. It was like, 7 years old when he bought it. It had 30,000 miles on it. It's the best thing he ever did for his mental health. He gets in that car. He feels good. Now, you might say, well, that's shallow. No, it's not. It's not at all. It's the environment in which he chooses to live. How much time do you spend in your car? Well, he gets to spend his time in his car in a beautiful Mercedes. And when he brought it, the first time I saw it, it looked brand new to me. And I've driven in it many times, and it's a beautiful car. Does it cost him more to run it? Absolutely. Maintain it? Absolutely. We laugh about it when he goes over to the dealership. It's like you just, give him your wallet. But it also was fulfilling a goal in his life, and that was to drive a very nice car. And that gives him it builds his self-esteem. It builds his abilities. Now, when he pulls up in front of a client's house, he's not pulling up in front of a client's house in the Impala. He's pulling up in front of the client's house in a Mercedes. So it helps his business. And don't kid yourself. When I used to drive around, there was a time when I was never a car guy, right? And I'd have people joke about my car because I was always I grew up in real estate and construction. I destroyed everything I ever owned. Now when I pull up in the Range Rover, people say to me, oh, that's a much nicer car. The average person will identify the fact that you are driving a much nicer car, so therefore you must be more successful. And in most cases, that will also be the fact. So, hey, I'm not shouting about this. I'm not ranting about this. I'm trying to communicate in a way in which you guys can understand that in order to move yourself above the average, you got to start to You got to start to dream about what those your dreams are, put them into goals, create activities around the goals, execute around the activities. What's good of having 10 activities that are going to get you to your success and you've only done 5? Well, now procrastination or fear, these are the things that stop people from living that mindset of abundance. Number one is fear, and we're going to talk a lot more about fear when we talk about scarcity, but fear is a huge restriction to abundance. But when you live the life of abundance, you know that you can always go out and make more money. You've created a skill set. You know how to start a business. You know how to buy a business. You know how to scale a business. Why do you think wealthy people, very often before they reach the end of their life, they've been either wealthy or broke several times? Look at Robert Kiyosaki. He came out with the Velcro wallet. Yeah. He was the guy that came out with the Velcro wallet. Right? Made this young, at the time, a very young person, very, very rich. And then he proceeded to lose it all. Now, according to him, he's also now a billionaire or close to it. But there's been times when he was also not so much. Same thing with me. There are times when you're up, there's times when you're down. I can tell you one thing, though. It makes life much more interesting. I mean, I just can't do the mundane thing of going to work every single day and doing the same thing over and over and over again. Now, I got it. That's what the average does. That's 80% of the people I'm talking to right now. And I'm not condemning it. I'm saying use that mundane job that you have to be the platform, to be the fuel that starts you on your path to moving into the 20%, to moving into the world of abundance. So that when you want to go somewhere, you don't even have to think about the cost. You just go. You don't have to think about the time you're away because you're not punching a clock anymore. And I know you might say, well, I'm on a salary. Well, there's a clock there too, my friend. So all these things come into play. I want you to start to think from a level. See, when I deal with people, I can tell immediately, am I dealing with somebody with an abundance mindset? All right? Because they don't have to have all the marbles. You got to see the thing about people who live an abundant life. They're extraordinarily generous. They're the ones that reach out and pay the bill. They're the ones that do these things. There's none of this concept called scarcity, which we'll speak to real soon here. They live in a level where, yeah, give me the bill. I'll take care of this. Or they'll go pay the bill before it even gets to the table. They'll pick up the golf round for them and whoever's with them. But they also know how to create. They also know how to make money. They also know how to generate jobs. They also know how to pay all their bills and get everything taken care of. These people know all this kind of stuff. So what kind of person if this at all is the kind of life that you think you'd want to try to live, where you get to do what you want to do, whenever you want to do it, and go with any of your family or friends when you want to do. And you get to pay for it too. All right. I want you to think about it, the life of abundance, the mindset of abundance, then creating the dreams, the goals, the activity, the accountability. See, the other thing there is extraordinarily committed and extraordinarily accountable. That's how abundant thinking people are. They're very committed and very accountable. We'll talk about that concept also. See, around all of this, there's more than one concept, but a main part of all of it is the concept of abundance. If you start there, it all gets a lot easier. Let's get out there. Let's make it happen. What do I always say? Start now. Grow fast. Start now. What do I always say? Grow fast. What do I always say? Think big. Start now. Grow fast. V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur.